Gina, Robert, thank you. We're getting started off. Welcome to Poetry Plus 2015. Back in the day, back when we were doing Poetry Pluses from 2000 to 2007, I was the co-host with K-May. And I don't know how many we ended up having. How many do we have, Kay? 40 of them. Now, Kay got them started in 2000. I didn't arrive on the scene until 2001, January 2001. And at that time, he was looking for a co-host, and I happily stepped into those shoes. And we just kept her going for 7 years. And we're bringing it back tonight. Tonight, Kay's asked me to step up. I'm Sarah, by the way. I'm on that piece of paper. I'm the Sarah on there. And I want to just sort of put what Poetry Plus was into perspective for you. Back in 2000, when Poetry Plus was started, the Busan then was very different from the Busan of today. First of all, it was Busan, not Busan, and certainly not the Boo or even the Poo. All of that is very, very recent. Centum City and Marine City were IMF wastelands. Citizens Grand Park was a bustling US military base, and every bar had a GI in it back in the day. Gwangan-daegyo hadn't been built, and there was only one line of the subway. Coffee shops were few and far between, and the coffee they served was shit. It was like watered down Americano. Oh, yeah. The only place to get a decent burger was T Street. And in 2000, there were exactly 0 foreign-owned bars. The first one was The Basement, which came around in 2002. PNU and Somyeon were the neighborhoods to hang out and weekends at places like Crossroads and Soul Train, the Moo Monk and Interplay and PNU. And in Somyeon you had Blues Bean, the Cowboy, and the Hollywood Star 1 and 2. Your beer options were nothing like they are today. Back in the day you had your choice of height, Cass, or OB. And if you had a little extra money in your pocket, you might splurge on a bottle of Corona, Heineken, or Budweiser. Some bars had Beck's Dark for like $8 a bottle, I think, back in the day. In 2000, there was no Facebook, there was no Busan Haps, but we did have Busan Web, which served as the lifeline of the expat community. Busan Web. Yeah. Busan had 23 epic teachers. 23 back in 2000, and they served the entire city. They did like two days to 2 weeks at every school, and they just jumped around all over the city. What?
And you were home by lunchtime.
And you were home by lunchtime. You had full vacations. Like if your manager couldn't get her shit together, you didn't start until October. And it was a good gig back in the day. The universities didn't have very many expats teaching at them, and hagwons weren't nearly as prolific as they are today. And they would basically hire anyone with a heartbeat. You didn't even need a degree back in the day to work at a hagwon. But one thing that hasn't changed in the past 15 years is the strength of Busan's music scene. Okay? Busan has always had a most excellent and talented pool of musicians. Back in the day, bands like Mojo and Cold Shot, B-Funk, Ghetto Bomb, Hetty Mama, Lady Goodman, you could catch these bands playing around on weekends. But there really weren't any open mics. And there certainly weren't 4 open mics every week crossing the entire city. But the community of talent, even though that we could go out every weekend and we could see musicians play, we had talented people here, but they didn't have a stage, they didn't have a venue. And when Kay started Poetry Plus 15 years ago, he provided a stage for the talent and the talented to anybody with an urge could sign up for a spot on the Poetry Pluses that happen roughly every 6 weeks. It was on the Poetry Plus stage that mostly solo musicians had an attentive audience, and we heard sounds of people like Michael Newkirk and Gus Swanda, Jason Riley, Remco, John Bosque, Bruce Rains, Dave Miller, Mike Levesque, Patrick Carl, and the Oatmeal Juggernauts, which was, they tended to wrap up our night. It was on the Poetry Plus stage that aspiring and experienced actors and actresses performed skits by playwrights of David Ives and Eric Bogosian, as well as some original pieces. And it was on the Poetry Plus stage that Busan first heard the stand-up comedy of Chris Starp and Johnny Ioannidis, and the original raps of Ben, Roberto, Justin, Chad, and Ollie. And it was on the Poetry Plus stage that the writers of prose and poetry, the wordsmiths of Busan, shared their words. People like Lavinia Spalding, Bonnie Stewart, Dave Cormier, Jeremy Roy, Rain, Jonathan, Vernon, Spook Larson, Nolan, Dinah, Suzanne Morning, Steve Labidas, Terrell, Scott Morley, Maurice Lyman, Papa Pump, Mitt Ball, Chip Hickman, Sean Archer, Sarah something, she was awesome, but I can never remember her name, Jen Southam, Jared Timmerman, Steve Feldman, Bob Purchin, and of course Kay May. To name a lot, and that's not an inclusive list, just a few that I pulled off Busan web archives. So we have the talent, we have the wordsmiths, the musicians, the comedians, the musicians. But we also had the talent. Okay, and see, Tharp's laughing over there. He's been to a few of the old Poetry Pluses. Anyone who wanted to perform at a Poetry Plus could. And it was on the Poetry Plus stage where Junior Barnes lip-synced to Popcorn. It was on the Poetry Plus stage where Andrew Pearson played a melodeon with his nose. And it was on the Poetry Plus stage that Mad Mike was his maddest. At one Poetry Plus, he brought a live duck and a live chicken to the event, and they just wandered around the stage all night. He set a table on fire, and he did a performance piece that involved him licking a live mosquito racket. And I think it was that night that finally, Kay's last straw. I think he went back and punched Mike in the face in the green room that night. And deservedly, yeah, he's grinning back there. But then again, so Busan matured. It matured as a city, and the number of the teachers grew exponentially, so the number of talented people grew, and the Poetry Plus stage became too small to hold all the talent that Busan held. 15 years after the start of Poetry Plus, we now have the Busan English Theatre Association and other acting groups. We have the vagina monologues and all of the spin-off stuff that happens around that event. We have the Ha Ha Hole, the comedy nights, and we have umpteen open mic nights, dozens of excellent bands performing every weekend all over the city, the words-only poetry and prose nights, and tons more of cultural and artistic venues that happen. But tonight isn't about now. Tonight is about bringing it back to the stage where it all began. The words, the music, the skits, the comedy, and the performance. The Poetry Plus stage. We have an excellent lineup of talent tonight that includes music, spoken word, theater, film, humor, and visual art. Please be a most excellent audience for these wonderful people. Give them your attention and your respect. I would especially like to draw your attention to the screens around the bar. Throughout the night, as you can see, they're going to be showing the visual art of photographers Peter DeMarco, Mike Dixon, George Boyle, and the paintings of Kelsey Smith, and the artwork of Anthony Jackson, who also put together this slideshow for you all tonight. Tonight, is going to be a most excellent mix of the best of what Busan's talent has to offer. So grab a beer, kick back, and let's get this show on the road.